Hi everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Stack, the series where we go beyond the buzzwords to explore how tech and innovation intersect at scale. I am Rohit Adlakha, your moderator for today. In this episode, we are tackling a question that's become central to every transformation agenda. AI isn't plug and play, it runs on infrastructure. And yet, too many organizations are deploying advanced models on outdated systems, leading to performance bottlenecks, integration issues, and soaring costs. So, today we are asking the question: is your infrastructure truly ready for AI? To help us unravel this, I am joined by two senior leaders who've led large-scale modernization efforts across some of the world's most complex tech environments. First, we have Gopal Subramanian, former global head of cloud, infrastructure and security at Cognizant, where he led large IT transformations for over 20 years. Now, Gopal as president and member of the executive leadership at Loka, he continues to shape future of tech conversations through both a business and impact lens. Welcome to the show, Gopal.
Thank you, Rohit. It's a pleasure to be part of this.
And of course, we have Chella Palaniappan. He is the president of client services at Trigent. Chella helps enterprises modernize their infrastructure, align IT with business goals, and scale faster through cloud and AI-led transformation. Welcome, Chella.
Thank you, Rohit and Gopal. Thank you very much for participating. I look forward to a conversation.
Thank you, Chella. Likewise.
So without much ado, we get into our question answer session. We'll start with you, Gopal, if that's okay.
Sure.
So we're seeing a lot of action in the boardrooms everywhere. AI pilots are launching fast, but scaling slowly. In your view, Gopal, what's the root cause? Are we dealing with a tech gap, a talent shortage, or just deep infrastructure debt?
Okay, that's some starter. Thanks, Rohit. I think it's a very poignant question. I think the answer lies in all of the above, but predominantly, I would put infrastructure debt. I think in the industry, largely it's talked about technology debt, right? People look at code modernization, refactoring, and transformation and all that. The infrastructure debt is largely overlooked. Actually, people don't realize that's how it can impact, right? Just to give an example, a lot of, as you said, the pilots are happening. They see success in small scale, but when they scale bigger and they want results, the models are not really standing up, right? There's a lot of glaring gaps. And this primarily because I think a lot of the data, see in the AI-based world, there are two fundamental enablers, right? One is updated data, and the infrastructure should be, able to handle high volume and low latency, right? Requirements. So in both fronts, I think the infrastructure debt is playing a key role, right? A lot of typically infrastructure is planned 1 to 3 years out based on hardware cycles and multi-cloud and all that strategy. But that's designed for a different era and different workforce. So many pilots work, and when the data is not up to date, the models quickly fail. So you don't have access to real-time data, and it's not really adding value to these AI models. So I would say infra debt is a key constraint, while talent supply and all other things are equally important. Infra debt and primarily data and infra modernization. I think these two are key constraints.
Well said, Gopal. Infrastructure and the entire data pipeline is often seen as the enabler, but in most of the cases turns out to be the constraint, and a lot of the CIOs actually overlook that. So, well said, well started. So, building on that, Chella, people have coined this very interesting phrase, AI ready infrastructure, and we keep hearing this term again and again. But what does it really mean for a modern enterprise? What really distinguishes companies that are scaling from all these pilots versus those which are actually stuck in pilots, what we call the pilot purgatory? Your views, Chella.
Sure. There's a lot of difference between installing or having AI tools and operationalizing them across the business, right? I think when we typically install AI tools, they tend to be within the IT landscape. AI-ready enterprises, in my opinion, should share a few key traits. First of all, they have to have built a unified, democratized data layer that is real-time, governed, and democratized. In fact, one of our retail clients we worked with invested early in this and now serves 90% of their AI models from a central feature store. This drastically reduces the model drift and improving time to insights. This single source of truth, often using technologies like feature stores, allows data to be easily accessed and reused by different teams within the organization. Number two, an elastic and modern compute backbone. AI workloads, especially for training large models, require immense computational power. The infrastructure is typically containerized, workload aware, and GPU ready. Third, they have converged DevOps and MLOps. Pilot projects often fail to scale because of the disconnect between the data science and the IT operations. A converged DataOps and MLOps enables CI/CD for both code as well as the models. But what really differentiates them is how they treat infrastructure not as a cost center, but as a product. It has product managers, it has KPIs, it's tied to innovation velocity. The results of this approach is not just theoretical. A recent study found that only a small percentage of companies, only about 8 to 10%, have fully scaled their AI implementation to become front-runner or innovation-ready. However, these leaders are reaping significant rewards. The study found that companies who have successfully scaled AI across enterprises are 3 times more likely to exceed their projected returns on investment from Gen AI. These are real values of AI. It's not isolated experiments. It is in creating robust and repeatable infrastructure that turns pilots into pervasive business-driving capabilities rather than staying in the purgatory that you talked about.
Thanks, Chella. For some of the more progressive enterprises, we are actually seeing a powerful shift, and infrastructure is now being viewed more as a growth asset and not just as a cost center. So that evolution is actually on. Gopal, coming back to you, most of the enterprises today are in what we call hybrid or multi-cloud environments. So if you look at it very practically, can GenAI scale meaningfully in that setup? Or the only way up is going fully cloud native? Your views, please.
Again, this is one of the consulting answers, depends. But I don't think anything can be 100% native of one way or the other. It's practically right. Given the complexity of IT landscape, most organizations, enterprises evolve over time. Right? They were designed for different workloads, different landing zones. As you rightly said, multi-cloud, on-prem, private, hybrid orchestration, all that, right? But then one has to carefully look at what kind of business outcome you are expecting, and then place the workloads properly, right? Because it's right now it may seem like all native cloud only will work. The direction of question you're asking is as if it's 100% or zero, right? But it doesn't work like that. But many industry analysts believe that too. If we look at Gartner's study today, it's less than 2% is on a hybrid, right? Mostly it's native, but it is not sustainable for 2 reasons. One is the economics. Second is the context. Like I said, context for enterprise is everything, right? One need to integrate, orchestrate the assets within the enterprise and harvest out of it, right? You can't build something completely in silo. Having said that, I think there is, depending on who you ask, the prediction is somewhere, what is less than 5% could go up to 25-30% in a hybrid world, right? So they are not going away anytime soon. There are more sovereign data governance policies and more privacy regulations are coming. Take India, for example, and any other geography is doing that. So that being said, but then your AI models can be on a native cloud, GPU-based stack, Kubernetes containerized, delivering that speed and velocity you need, right? The key is a very, very strategic separation of these two. When I say separation, I think both needs to be in the respective landing zones to add value. But then you need to meaningfully orchestrate. I think that becomes the key. So as an infrastructure leader, I would build assets and invest heavily on what I call as the future of orchestration engine, right? In traditional world, you did it between different tools and platforms and automation, but this is a very different game at a different level, right? So I think the key is in strategic separation of these landing zones, but having them both together and orchestrating meaningfully, and we can derive business outcome of this. And I think that's what would evolve.
This reminds me, Gopal, when I was the CIO at Wipro, we had more than 10,000 virtual and physical machines. And we evolved from 100% on-prem to a 90% cloud and 10% on-prem. So it was not easy, but I think what we realized is that you have to be practical apart from just being progressive and make sure you maintain the right balance. Switching gears, Chella, we want to move on to a slightly more touchy and sensitive subject, which is infrastructure spend and value realization. And budgets, especially for infrastructure, are always under pressure. Whereas the cost of implementing AI and, of course, the ambitions in the mind of the CXOs are continuously soaring. So how do you feel that the CIOs justify these infra investments to the board? And how do you think that they can actually project ROI to the top management?
The traditional indicators of ROI are not going to work, right? So I think that the CIOs or CXOs must reframe the ROI from a cost savings tool to connect them to innovation velocity. That means demonstrating how the infrastructure can help accelerate business ability to 1, deploy AI models, 2, launch intelligent features, 3, respond to market signals, right? The boards need to see infrastructure that enables them to business KPI multiplier, right? It's not just like a lesser KPI, but what is the KPI that multiplies the business outcome? These new approaches require shift in metrics used within the IT industry. 1, time to model deploy, the speed at which new AI models can go from development to production. If a fintech company can reduce the deployment time frame from days to just 15 minutes or half hour, that rapid shift signals a massive leap in revenue velocity. Next, cost per inference. As each and every user is querying these AI models and getting insights, what is the cost of these AI-driven decisions, which helps them board understand long-term scalability and efficiency of the AI application. Third, revenue per API call. Businesses are modernizing the AI as a service, which means all developers are going to be using this and writing applications on that. And the metric that ties to each of the API calls, infrastructure performance, the revenue generation should be in place. By using these new metrics, CIOs can show investing in infrastructure is just not a cost, but a strategic move that directly drives revenue and maintains the business competitiveness in the landscape. I think these are key, in my opinion.
On a lighter note, Chella, what doesn't get measured doesn't get funded. So I think for AI, especially Gen AI and of course Agentic AI, we really need a whole new scorecard. And I think the onus is back on us to be able to articulate that value back to the CIOs who can then go back to the board for actual approvals. So Gopal, a very interesting topic, platform engineering, if in quotes, if I may put it, these are buzzwords which have now gone to the boardroom itself. So platform engineering, AI ops, internal developer platforms. Are these concepts, are these terms actually strategic, or they are just the next level of abstraction? What's your view?
Okay, very, very pertinent question actually. Thank you. I must take a step back. If you look at it from an infra standpoint, like I think in a previous dialogue also we talked about having a strategic oversight of the landscape, right? What people call the control tower. Okay? The name itself is control, right? So somebody focus on compliance and control, and things worked on a, you have an overarching platform, and then you substantiate with the fixed governance. Things work. Okay? So that was it was for a different era. So if you look at AI, when things are at scale, at the speed at which you can derive value for the business, right? Then the infra need to catch up. So platform engineering is truly a strategic, I would say investment as an imperative actually. I'll give you an example. So platform engineering means for different things, right? For example, if I would ask the infra ops manager, they will say it's my ability to monitor every asset, put a probe and see what's exceeding the threshold. And true, that's true too. That you need to figure out uptime, measure things, that's true. But then if you look at enabling business, so I think to Chella's point, very good. You mentioned revenue per API call. So you're directly linking your API call to the money earned by the business, right? So how do you measure these things? How do you put a probe on these things, right? So platform engineering is kind of overarching concept where you look at a very dynamic development environment, right? Where the infrastructure itself becomes like a software code. It's very configurable, fungible, right? And it's doable. A lot of, one of the largest private asset managements we work with, they manage close to $1 trillion of asset under management, private. Their whole development platform is based on infra as a core concept, right? So your development environment kind of spins up in entire DevOps. So it not only develops the code and the features to the business, but the underlying infra that is needed to run the very environment is also again, very fungible. It's almost like productized, right? Okay, if you were developing a particular type of a solution, you need a different environment. That again is dynamically spin up. In traditional infra world, you would say I need a development environment. It may be a request you put in, typical fixed governance, right? I talked about traditional ways. Then there's a change board, and it takes a day or a week, maybe a few hours in many places, right? When you spin up underlying infra for development. Infra as a code is completely dynamically orchestrated, right? The whole DevOps life cycle, supply chain is fully automated. So you kind of spin up environment as you need to meet the business requirements, right? And it has observability and security as part of the native concept. It's not a layer, it's kind of baked into the whole stack actually. Then you're able to do wonderful things like what Chella talked about. You can do, hey, okay, how many API calls I'm making, how many tokens I'm consuming, right? Can I do with some open source? Can I do with some private? Or you can even look at some private stack emerging now, right? In AI world also, it's like true hybrid cloud all over again. A lot of private AI models in the enterprise will come eventually. We'll talk about that. But so truly, I think this whole platform engineering is not some buzzword in my view. It is truly a strategic asset for any infra leader to build and build it in a comprehensive way. Don't just silo it to a infra monitoring management, uptime only focus. Okay, I think it needs to move beyond to business agility. Can I give the productivity, the velocity the business developers need, the business analysts need, right? How do I enable all of that? I think you need to expand the horizon for that. Then platform engineering truly becomes a strategic, I would still call control tower, but it's not only focusing on control, right? It's a lot more, it's actually enabling tower or accelerating tower, you may name whatever. But that's the way I look at it, right? That would be a right center of the platform somebody needs to invest in. I think it's very, very key. It's not just enough to have a multi-AI model, multi-cloud and data governance and all of this. If you don't get, and the other flip side, if you don't get platform engineering right, I think a lot of our cost and efforts may go undervalued, or it will not deliver the value at the pace you want. Right? You'll keep churning cycles, but you won't be able to have the end-to-end visibility, or the speed at which you want to spin up things. So it becomes a almost bedrock requirement, right? So that's my view. I think platform engineering is a very, very key strategic investment and build out somebody need to do. It's not easy. The talent is not that easily available like anything else new. But that I think I would put my dollar on it if I have one. But I think that's absolutely critical. So it's not just a buzzword. It's very, very important.
As long as platform engineering is modular, scalable, integratable, it can give the business agility and become a core enabler for growth. So I think that's what we all look up to.
Yes.
Okay. As we're coming to the end of this recording and this mini podcast, let's do some stargazing. And it's not so much into the distant future, it's just 2 years away. So to both you, Gopal and Chella, if we were to fast forward to 2027 and infrastructure is no longer seen as plumbing but as a product, what does that look in terms of reality for both of you? Maybe you can start, Gopal.
Thanks, Rohit. I'll make an attempt. See, I'm from a traditional infra world. We carry some key, stats in our tips, right? If we take 5-9 availability, then I say 5 minutes downtime in a year. It's a rule of thumb, right? Now, that may be good for in a traditional, availability 5 minutes in a year. So I think the availability definition is very, it's changing, right? It's no more one number which, we designed to it, but then it has to be contextually 100% or more. The reason I'm giving that is, in a traditional infra world, I have a key acronym I use, ASAP, right? Standard the architecture, basically A meaning available, right? S meaning secure, right? And A again meaning affordable. Cost economics is very, very important, right? And P meaning it's performing. It's performing to the threshold you expect it to, right? To deliver business outcome. So this ASAP was a traditional playbook. Used it for years, it worked. If you have any design of a system, it solves these fundamentally. You are in a sound starting point. Now, if I look at where I stand now and look at future, I would say it is ASAP to the power 2. We have to add a completely new definition of what an infra means, right? In a infra. So I'll attempt at that, right? Now this second ASAP is more like, it's not just available anymore, it's agile. So summary, I think ASAP was good. Now we need ASAP to the power 2, which kind of, handles both worlds actually. That's my quick, take on your future looking for stargazing.
Well, Chella?
Well, thank you for that perspective. I truly agree to that. I also believe that infrastructure will drive innovation, just not support it, right? So what does that mean? I think we will see cost as code. Cost as code, meaning it may not be the right acronym, but essentially cost controls are baked directly into infrastructure and deployment pipeline so that teams can make smarter, budget-aware decisions. Number 2, zero trust by default. I think that is given. Number 3, as AI models and systems are going to be heavily used by other developers, a consumer-grade experience for developers. Today, things like AWS and others provide that kind of a very similar experience for developers to compose things and build stuff. So a self-service portal where developers can provision resources with few clicks, include robust documentation, make API pipelines, and integrate observability tools. So I think that is key. Next, observability, when we talk about it, it also should be baked into every data pipeline that you should be able to see it. Lastly, financial accounting. Infrastructure teams should be articulating the value that they're delivering and not justify the budget based on the business impact. So you should be able to have the financial accountability. So combining all these things, I think 2027 will be an era where infra earns its seat at the revenue table. Right? That's how I look at it.
Good news for all the infrastructure enthusiasts. Infrastructure won't just be an engine under the hood. it's going to be the core driver for competitive advantage. Thanks, Gopal and Chella. And on the same note, I'm going to put you on a tight spot, and this is like a rapid fire single question to both of you. If you had 30 seconds with the global board of a company, what would you say to them about rethinking infrastructure for the AI era? Chella, you go first.
I would say to the board that your infrastructure is either a brake on your AI ambitions or a catalyst for explosive growth. The choice is yours.
Thanks, Chella. Gopal, spotlight is on you.
Thank you. I would say, if you want to really, AI is all about scale, and if you want to scale AI-based business models and value out of the AI models, I think infrastructure intelligence is key.
Thanks, Gopal, and that brings us to the end of this conversation. I am particularly pleased myself because today's discussion brought something into sharp focus. AI doesn't run just on hope, it runs on infrastructure. So whether it's compute, whether it's data, whether it's automation, our ability to scale intelligence really depends on the infrastructure and architectural choices that we make today. Chella, Gopal, thank you so much for the in-depth answers, for the clarity, and of course the bold thinking in the last rapid fire. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time, stay sharp, stay scalable. Cheers.